Welcome to Conversations with Educators, where we bring educators from across the country to talk about topics like college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, and more. Let's get started.
All right, so this is part of our webinar series, Conversations with Educators, 5 ways to a stress-free testing season. And we're glad that you're here, and hopefully you'll be able to walk away with some great information that you can use. My name is Kim Tunnell, and I am the VP for Educational Outreach with Education Advance. I was in public education for 35 years and doled out lots of tests. Of course, back then it was the paper pencil, so we had to track all those booklets, but we moved a little bit beyond that, and I'm aging myself. So we're gonna visit with you today about how to have that stress-free season. We have lots of our test friends here. Carrie Bartholomew, who is one of our customer success managers, Winston Bolin, who is our enterprise support analyst, and Craig Dickey, who is another one of our customer success managers, and then Dr. Roz Jackson, who is another customer success managers. If you've been with TestHound, our product, you'll, I know, have worked and love these people as much as I do. So we're going to start off our agenda today, and I don't know why my piece is not advancing. Our agenda today is to visit with you about 5 different strategies that you can use for making sure that that test-free season is there. We're going to talk about team management and team building, and trying to get your all of your people on board. Then we're going to go in. Winston's going to visit with us about data mastery, and then we'll move into logistics, and Dr. Jackson will be talking to us about logistics. And then Carrie's going to jump in about some stress-related strategies as well. And then Craig will finish up with our tech tools and kind of wrap everything up. So that's our agenda for today, and we'll get started off. Since that is not advancing, I'm going to keep working on that. But as far as the teamwork goes and the team building, if you're a district, we know some of you are district testing coordinators at the district level, and there's others at the campus level, and so we want to address both of those concerns. But who is on your team? And I think a lot of times having that team, being intentional about meeting ahead of time with team, like, have you gone over the accommodations with at the district level with your special ed department? Have you pulled them in? Have you met with principals and made sure that they are all on board and understand the schedule, and being intentional about those connections with them? And then, of course, you've got your training that happens at the campus level. How have the teachers been engaged? Do they understand? Having that schedule is really important of how things are going to roll out. But taking care of needs and answering questions and making sure that there's some communication loop is very beneficial for that. As well as getting with, the front office. And sometimes at the campus level, we forget about things like, are the custodians aware of what they need to be doing and how they can help support the front office staff? I know a lot of times when I was on a campus, we used, paraprofessional staff. So having that all hands available to make sure that testing sessions go well, and that things flow, and that there's a way that they can reach out and ask a question. I know there was a lot of texting that always happened because there'd be different wings in the hallway. But how do you get your team together and coordinate those efforts? So that's what is beneficial for ensuring that stress-free testing as much as we can. Now it's going to work. All right. So who's your pit crew? That's what you need to determine ahead of time. If you're new in your position, reach out. Don't try to do this on your own. And then, of course, always connect with your fellow cohorts on different campuses or between districts. There were a lot of times that we shared the DTC. One district would call and visit with the other. So teamwork's really important. And when that pit crew comes together, they can take care and make sure that students are where they need to be with the proper accommodations and testing and have a successful experience. So, all right, we're going to move into data. And Winston, talk to us a little bit about data and the things. First, introduce yourself and share your experience, and then share with us about how we can master that whole data world.
Thank you, Kim. Hey, everybody, I'm Winston Boland. If you've done anything with TestHound, you've probably spoke with me at some point in time. As we were getting ready for this, I realized this is going to be my 9th year of working with TestHound. So I've been here a little bit. Before I did this, I was an IT guy working in the corporate world. Didn't know what an accommodation was. Now I dream about it. So I've got years of experience now. So to talk about TestHound a little bit, TestHound's really data-driven. Everything we do revolves around data that's given to us from outside of the company, from districts, vendors, and all, with the assumption that the data is up to date and accurate. When you onboarded with us, we worked with you to set up nightly files from your SIS, whether you use Skyward, PowerSchool, Ascender from your region centers. We had nightly data set up sent to us so that you have the freshest data you can every morning that you come into school. We've worked with various vendors across the state, EastEd, Success Ed, new up-and-coming vendors like Embrace and Same Goal. They know our formats. They know how to get data to us. And when you work with them and when you onboard or if you change during the school year, we know how to get that set up so that we're getting that accommodation data. We accept score data from Cambium through the Performance Tracker Toolkit. You are getting those scores after they've tested, you're uploading them into our system. So you can actually determine, is this kid a retester? Do they need to retake this test? Do they need to set this out? There's even accommodation data that you can get out of TestHound and send to like Eduforia or Edugents. The data coming in and out, we have tons of data. We also have reports you can pull out of TestHound to send back to Cambium. We have files like the registration file and test attributes that takes the data you've put in there and this work you've done with us and puts it into something cohesive that Cambium can use to actually get these tests done. If you've worked with TestHound, you might have noticed reports are getting a little slower to run every now and then. That's because you guys are just tearing it up. You're using the system like crazy. But we did get reports about this and we listened. And so we've begun revamping our report systems so that you have more reliable and faster reporting. You might see at the campus level, we've created a data access portal where you can go ahead and run reports and you say you want it and then come back a couple minutes later and it's ready to go. You're not waiting on the site to create those. We're doing it and presenting it to you, and then you can come back and grab them as you need. Excuse me. So you guys came here to hear some tips. So it's that time of year. Winter break just got over with. You're into January now. It's time to kind of roll up your sleeves and start checking all those sources of data. Coming out of the break, servers get turned off during winter break. Dates get changed as you move over into a new semester. I can't promise you it's going to be stress-free, but if you work now and go ahead and look at these things, you will feel a lot less stress as testing season actually starts. One of my best things to tell you is just spot check your data. If you're a DTC, go look at your different campuses. Look at the new students coming in. Look at your alerts. See what's happening. Are you getting new accommodations for kids? Because our meetings are happening right now. New stuff's going in there as you get ready to do that testing in a couple months, or next week if you're doing telepass, I guess. But yeah, so go in. We even make under autopilot. You have the different vendors that are sending us your accommodation data. Go in, download those files, check those kids, make sure that they're getting the right accommodations. Because we can do all the things in the world, but if that data isn't correct being sent to us, it's not going to be correct for you to use it. So this is the time. Go in there, check that data. And if you're a DTC, just go look at your campuses and make sure that those alerts are being accepted. Many calls to our help desk are easily solved just by accepting alerts. So it's a lot as you get ready to get testing, but we have things in place and we have a great help desk crew, a support team that's here to help you. Our tier 1 team, myself, all our account managers, we're all here for you. So if you run into any trouble, reach out to us, let us know, and we're here to help. And I'll give it back to Kim.
That's great. Yes. Spot checking your data and ensuring that things are flowing the way they need to be, or that the things are in place, especially for those IEP meetings that are close to the testing, to make sure that all those kids get tested as well. So thank you, Winston, for sharing the importance of data, because man, that can really mess with your testing season, can't it? All right. Please drop, if you've got questions, drop those in the Q&A. If you've joined us a little bit late, we welcome you and are glad you're here. And we're going to turn it over to Dr. Jackson and let her share with us about logistics and how to navigate like a boss. So Dr. Jackson, take it away.
Hi, good morning. So in looking at the logistics for testing and trying to be stress-free, one of the main things you want to do is try to have everything into place. And to do that, the very first thing that you need to do is start early. Time can either be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. So you want to allow plenty of time for you to get started and start your planning. And that way, if anything comes up, you can be flexible and not be as stressed out as you would have been if you're doing it at the last minute. So that's my very first thing there, is start early. With logistics and room assignments, what you want to do is you want to grab your school map, grab your team, and talk about where you're going to have your testing. Is it a certain wing of the building that you're going to use? Is it a certain section, a certain hallway? So you want to look at that and then decide how many students are going to be testing. So how many students you're going to be working with, regular ed students versus accommodated students, because that's going to affect how many rooms that you're going to need for testing. You also want to assess down to the last detail, how many chairs are in each room, how many desks and tables. If you have that information, that can allow you to be more prepared on testing day. And again, like Kim said earlier, when we first started, you want to communicate with your team. Try to delegate, don't do it on your own. Counting desk, tables, and chairs, that's a task you shouldn't have to do as a testing coordinator. But, grab your resources, ask a teacher to email that to you so that you can put it in a spreadsheet so that you have it, or even use office aides. They can go and count those. That gives them something to do that's productive during the day. So you do want to assess that as well. Then you want to look at your testing budget. How much do you have for your budget? Are there things that you need to buy? You need to take stock of your materials. Do you have bins that you could use? Do you have pencils? Do you have scratch paper, erasers, highlighters, earphones for your students that have auto text-to-speech or text-to-speech? Do you have that, and is it ready to go? Do you need to order more of that? So you do want to take stock of what you have and what you need, and then get that ordered. And then again, grab your office aides and have them count that out into little packets of maybe 25, 30, so that you can put those in your bins for testing day. Delegation is key to helping you not be stressed out. Then you want to look at your organizing and scheduling. You want to schedule your students by day, by subject, maybe if you're a high school student, or high school coordinator, or maybe even by grade and teacher if you're elementary. You also want to think about non-testing students. Are you responsible for those? Where are they going to be on testing day? So you want to get that together and then start organizing. Once you have that together, you can start organizing your bins. And you can see a little screenshot here. This is one of my old testing closet. I was a campus testing coordinator at one point in time. And so these are my little buckets. I've got my Monday group and my Tuesday group, and then I've got my, my little room numbers and all that. And I've put all that information in there, the rosters, the text to speech headphones, all of those are in that bucket there. And then you want to create and share a test administrator relief schedule. Okay, so yes, you're going to have who's going to be administering that test, but what about relief? Who's going to relieve them? What time? You want to create a schedule for that as well and share that with everyone on your campus. Then you want to prepare your test administrators for testing day. You want to create a materials checklist so that you have that ready so they can sign those materials in and out. And then you want to share your master schedule that you've created with them. You basically want to share with everybody on your campus, anyone from hall monitors to the students themselves to, your attendance clerk. The more information that you're able to share, the more everybody feels comfortable. They know what they're doing that day. And if you can even do a dry run before the test, that is very helpful because then the students know where they're going to go on testing day and they don't seem to be as lost. Communication, like we keep saying, that keeps coming up. Communication is key. You want to inform your teachers early about the roster. So if you can have those created a little earlier than the day of testing. So if you can even do it like maybe 3 or 4 days early or maybe a week early, so that they have time to look at that roster, look at those accommodations on the list that you've got there, and then ask you questions about it. If they have questions, then they're going to feel more prepared on testing day as well. So definitely communication is key. And share that schedule with the parents. You can create a form letter, let them know, hey, this student is taking this test this day. They need to be there early. They need to get a good night's sleep, eat a good breakfast in the morning, whatever the case may be. So you want to communicate with your parents just as much as you do with your teachers and the staff. Testing day protocols, you want to provide at least 2 copies of everything. So for example, like your attendance sheet. If you can do, or your roster, if you can do 2 copies of that, put that in your bucket. That way, if you end up having to relocate a student, you have a copy you can grab and give it to that teacher that's going to be relocating, and they can mark the specific students that they have on that day. Then I made notes here so I wouldn't forget anything important. You want to verify and track all those materials that are going to be coming back into you. So you do want to make sure that you have created that sign in, sign out form so that they can use it. Think about your makeup testing. You want to track your students who are absent so that you can reschedule them for a makeup immediately. So you're going to have to be looking at that student that's absent and then their tests. What do they have coming up next that they have to test? And then when can they retest? So you want to get that together and make sure that you have alerted them. You've alerted the test administrators, their parents, and everybody so that they know when that student is going to make that test up. And then after you've done all that, you need to make sure that you take care of yourself. That's very important. You need to dedicate some time to decompress and de-stress. Find something that you can do at the end of the day that doesn't have anything to do with testing so that you can come back refreshed the next day and do it all over again so that you can make it through the testing week. And I will toss it back over to Kim.
Yeah, fantastic ideas. That self-care is so important because it can mount each day, right? So yeah, having that release is really important thing. And I'm glad you mentioned about the relief schedule because that having all of that stuff done ahead of time makes such a difference, especially if you're moving students, and you're consolidating. So thank you for sharing. Okay, Carrie, talk to us about some stress busting strategies.
I sure will. Again, thank you all for joining us. I'm Carrie Bartholomew, and this is my 3rd year with Education Advanced. And in my previous life, I was a campus testing coordinator and also a district testing coordinator. I was able to do that at both the high school level and at the elementary level before I went into that district testing coordinator role. So as you know, if you've done this job before, or if this is your first year and you're just coming into it, a big part of being a great testing coordinator is bringing calm to the chaos, because there's so much coming in so many different ways. And, calm confidence is hugely important for that final testing day. And what typically happens is on testing day, everything just runs so smoothly and people are like, wow, that was great. You did such a good job, but they don't know everything that's gone into making that a nice, smooth day. So I wanted to share just a couple of tips that I've learned from others. I've picked up along the way. I've seen different campuses, different districts do things differently. And one thing I would say is the most important is that starting now, just your response and just to questions that come your way. Your ultimate goal is you want, whenever people are unsure on testing day about something, that they can ask you without being worried about, you know, an angry response or something like that. So how you handle questions along the way will ultimately set up, you know, a calm response for testing day. They know they can ask you if they're not sure about something without you know, being worried that they'll be in trouble or something like that. So of course that sets the stage for the calm for testing season even now. But one of my biggest tips is really to kind of plan for pitfalls. Things are not going to go as planned. That's just life. That's how things happen. And one of the things I would say is just reflect on even if this is your first year, what are things that caused you anxiety and stress on testing days in the past? You know, is it that they're mowing and weed eating outside the testing hall that you've chosen and the kids can't concentrate? So let maintenance know. They're not up on when the big primary testing days are. You know, maybe let maintenance know ahead of time. We're going to be testing this week so they can adjust their schedules accordingly. Maybe it's that all of your people are checking out materials at one time and the line gets backed up. So like Roz said, maybe have people come check their materials the afternoon before or during their conference on the day before, count their testing tickets, look at their accommodations, sign off on everything and lock that bucket up and nobody touches it till the next morning, so that when they come the next day, they can just check it out without all of the time it takes to do that. One of my elementary campuses, they kind of switched the script on testing days. Instead of starting at 8 and everybody coming in and trying to get everything rushed and ready, they would send their testing grade kiddos. They would alternate and a group of them would go outside recess and our specials teachers would let them play outside and play some of that stress and energy away while the teachers were inside double checking their accommodations, counting their tickets, getting their rooms set up just the way they wanted. They'd come back in, eat breakfast, and then they would start. So they maybe didn't start till 8:45 or 9, but everybody was much more calm after that. Anything that you can think of, you know, your bus, and you can't do it all, just like Roz said. Delegate, have somebody go pass a little treat to your bus drivers that the week before testing, letting them know that next week is going to be, you know, the kids are stressed coming into that primary administration sometimes. Maybe they'll have a little more grace getting those kids a few more smiles on the bus before they come into the building. So anything you can do to create that calm for your campus will pay dividends on testing day. Kim, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, yes, it's so planning for the pitfalls makes such a difference on that testing day, because it's like, okay, have a plan B. If this teacher's gone, who's going to fill in? If you've got substitutes, how are you going to rearrange? So thinking about all the things that could go wrong and having a plan in place is great advice, Carrie. Thank you for that. So, Craig, talk to us about some of the tools. You know, it's related to the stress busting strategies as well, but what are some tools and some things that are available that you would recommend?
Absolutely, Kim. And I just want to kind of introduce myself. I'm Craig Dickey. I spent 23 years in education doing all the things kind of like you guys. And I've been with Education Advanced 3 years as well, being a customer success manager. And Kim, Winston, Carrie, and Roz reiterated some vital points as far as district testing goes and campus testing goes. And we here at TestHound as a tech tool are here to alleviate that stress to make it easier. So as Winston was talking about, and in using TestHound, we can work with your SIS, your student information systems. We can work with your accountability vendors in order to make your job easier and your data accurate. In addition to that, we work in conjunction, as Roz was talking about, with a multitude of state approved reports So for your documentation that in Texas you have to keep for 5 years at both the um, district and campus level, you can have a standardized forms to make that job easier. And there's a multitude of those just as logistical forms or reports that you can run in order to streamline your processes to make them the same between various campuses. And that's one thing I always tried to encourage is we were using the same reports, the same forms, not only for local administrations, but for state administrations. So everything was continuity. Um, Also, as Carrie was mentioned, I can't stress enough the calm that is needed when you are well prepared and you have used like tech tools like TestHound in order to streamline your processes. I see several familiar names on this, and I see some that are not current TestHound users. So that's what we are here for, is to make your job easier, make it to where you can walk away at either the district or campus level and come back in that next week of testing with a sense of relief and knowing that everything is copacetic and ready to be handled. One other thing that I want to mention along with those reports is in Texas, we work in conjunction with Cambium, and we have several specific Texas reports that would alleviate some of your stress and time in uploading things to Cambium and Tide, such as your accommodations. As Roz mentions, if you approve your alerts and you have all your accommodations up to date, we can issue a report in TestTown that you can upload to Tide to turn on those online embedded supports for testing attributes or for your non-embedded supports, which we used to call designated supports. So your CTCs and your DTCs are not sitting there manually turning those on in Tide to further eliminate those. So those are some of the things that TestHound can help you with. I'm going to toss it back to Kim, but if anybody has any questions, we'd be glad to assist you in any way we can.
Yeah, I think, Craig, you hit the nail on the head. Our purpose is to make things easier. Definitely you can do it manually and have the spreadsheets and print things out, but I know the TestHound team is very responsive on making sure that suggestions are put into place, whether it's, the tickets, and adding and formatting of the student tickets or whatever in autopilot that, so we value the ideas and keep those coming, share those with your customer success manager or put in a support ticket and say, hey, is there any way that TestHound could do this? Because we pride ourselves on supporting you in what you're doing and making it easier for you. So that's our purpose with all three of our products that we have, and that's our goal as a company. So we're gonna open it up. I know we're up on time, but if there's any questions that you have, we are more than happy to answer those and to address the any suggestions or ideas that you have that you'd like to share too. So just drop those in the Q&A. And again, we really appreciate you taking your time out of your day. Hope this was beneficial for you. And I'm not seeing any questions right now, so we'll wait. One thing I was curious about was when those tickets are issued, now there's new requirements for consolidating since the time limits have left. Do any of you have any ideas on effective ways of getting students kind of regrouped and reallocated for that, and then accounting for it as well? Okay, so we have, is it possible to create a custom bundle of reports in TestHound?
So I'm not exactly sure what they had in mind, but that is one of the things like Kim was talking about. If you have an idea of something specific, feel free to reach out to your customer support manager, or like she said, put in a support ticket to give us your ideas. You can, there is some customization that you can do in the reports we already have. Kind of depends on what exactly it was you're talking about. And I'll just go ahead and answer. Someone asked about being able to print test tickets individually, and I believe Craig maybe already answered that, but we do have the option to either print them individually, and some people like to use that as their scratch paper, the back side of that. But also you can print them 10 to a page. You have the option. It's out there and available now. Your test needs to be set up. And those 10 to a page, some people like to print those on labels and stick them on note cards. So that's just another little tip that people have been using.
Okay. And how about the printing tickets and seating charts all at once as a mass print?
I'll kind of talk to that. We've actually been discussing on the product side ways to maybe make reports available right off the bat, like go ahead and pre-create some files that you can just go in and download and print. That's not happening yet, but that is definitely something that's been on our radar and we've been discussing. So we're keeping that in mind.
Yeah, it would be great. The participant that submitted that question would be wonderful to know what kind of things you would like to see in that, because that helps our development team when they work on that solution. So if you could provide some specific information on what you would like to see happen, that always helps us in creating. So great questions. We appreciate the participation.
Also, there was a question about someone new and checking accommodations. If you're new and you're coming into a situation that's already been set up, it would be really beneficial to go into how your vendor is mapped and look at what the person before you previously did. There are some cases where if you come in at the right time of year, I'd say remove the accommodations and map them the way you want to see them. Because all this is something we take the data from the vendors and we give it to you and let you control how you want your administrators to see this data to give a kid a test. So, if with it being, like I said, the end of January, you have time to go in and do look at that map, redo it if you want. A little bit of time, like give yourself an hour or so, go through, look at it and decide, hey, does this make sense to map this to this? Maybe it made sense to the person before, but if you're stepping into somebody else's thing, make it yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can't reiterate enough how important it is to start early. Don't let it, get up to the schedule where you're starting to have anxiety. So you can spot check and do a lot of the things now in anticipation before you get to that testing session. So, okay. Well, it looks like, Craig, it looks like you're answering. Someone suggested, they said they purchased 4 sleeve plastic pockets from Amazon, and then they have the TA's name, absent, needs more time, and completed. And that streamlines the process there. So great, great suggestion.
Kim, want to answer one of the questions in the chat as far as consolidation form. TEA, when we inquired about that, does not require a consolidation form, but a consolidation plan in checking with TEA. So there's no requirement yet. But if you do want to do a consolidation form, you can use a materials control form to use that as well if you want to modify those or have a couple of copies of those in order to reiterate those. But since you do have that suggestion, I would encourage you to put that in as a feature request in our ticket system so we can evaluate the need of that across the state.
Yeah. And that's in Texas, but we know that, we've got districts in Ohio and Florida. We're working to get those reports, the state level reports, to upload in both of those states as well. And so any of those ideas from Ohio and Florida that we can better assist you with, we're open to that as well. So again, we appreciate the time and thank you for those of you that are TestHound users. Thank you for your continual feedback and working with us. Then if you're not a TestHound user and you would like to find out more information, please reach out, educationadvance.com, and we'd be more than happy to share things with you. So we hope you all have a great rest of your day and best of luck in a successful, stress-free-ish testing season. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to learn more about college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Until next time.